Welcome, everyone, to a very special spring edition of 11 Warriors Film Study. I am Kyle Jones. Today, we are talking about last Saturday's spring game in Ohio Stadium. We saw the Scarlet offense against the gray defense. Now, in the past, we've seen a true split squad scrimmage. I personally enjoy seeing ones versus ones, twos versus twos, seeing some of that best on best, even though we saw some of the top players like Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Smith play limited reps, understandably, coming off a long playoff run that just felt like it ended yesterday, in my opinion. But it was still good to see guys out there. Now, wasn't a ton that we're going to be able to take away schematically from that game, in my opinion. The more time is set in, the more I've watched and kind of thought about what we saw. I really didn't think that was the debut of Matt Patricia with a new defensive look for Ohio State. I know a lot of people have been wondering, was that the scheme? Is that the system we can expect under him? That didn't really look like what we've seen in the past. It didn't look like what we've seen from the Patriots and stuff. And I believe that's for a very good reason, which is they don't want to give Sark any extra advantage heading into that home game on week one, Labor Day weekend, against the visiting Longhorns in what will be one of the biggest games of the season. Obviously, Ohio State and Texas just faced off. Ohio State has an advantage by not knowing what the scheme, or not showing what the scheme will be in this rematch with both of its coordinators leaving. Still, the offense looks like the same Ryan Day offense, kind of proving what we always kind of thought, which was even with Chip Kelly calling plays, it was still Day's system. We saw more of that from Julian Sayin, Lincoln Keenholz, and the rest of the offense. Overall, big day for the quarterbacks. I think that was probably on purpose, just to give them some confidence, make them look good. All in all, as I'll show today, I thought it was a really strong performance from Julian Sayin, less so because of the context of the plays, but really about just his footwork, his mechanics, his ability to work through and deliver the ball accurately. A really impressive performance, although we'll see what happens when he's not wearing the no-contact black jersey come this fall. I certainly think he'll be the quarterback as we open week one, unless something changes. You never hope for an injury, but assuming everyone stays healthy, that's my assumption. But we'll just be wondering what happened with the defense and waiting another few months to really see the grand unveiling. Wasn't a whole lot that we could take away, which we'll dig into now. All right, let's begin. Let's talk about the run game a little bit. This is a great run later on in the game from Bo Jackson. Breaks a tackle inside, pops back out, catches a little bit of a break from a hole, but it was a really nice run regardless. Breaks another tackle from Malik Hartford. You don't love seeing that. But I want to talk quickly about it. This is one of the few schematic pieces that I thought we could take away from the game last Saturday. We saw a ton of gap scheme, just like we did in the playoff. Ohio State has been traditionally a zone scheme under Ryan Day, going back to when he came in as the OC with under Urban Meyer. But during the playoffs, what really kind of sprang the offense to life was a gap scheme. Gap scheme means you are designing for a specific gap. In this case, you're going to see Jackson kind of fade this way and come up, and he's trying to run right around the left side. That gap, that is where he's going. He's not necessarily reading, maybe I'll cut here, or even bounce out like you would in a zone scheme. Instead, we're going to get a pull from the center to kick out the end. We're going to see Jelani Thurman come around back to seal the linebacker, and then we're going to get down blocks, right? We get a double there. Onyanwa's going to come up to the linebacker, kick out, right? That's what we're seeing in this instant, right? We'll show it slowly. Again, you can see the pull. Very quickly. All right, we get a nice kick out there from the center. Thurman makes enough content. What I like is that Peyton Pierce does try to meet this in the hole, right? He's not waiting to get blocked up here. He's coming down to try to shorten that. And there's not a ton of room for Bo Jackson here, right? We said he was trying to run right behind the butt of Onyanwa. He's got there. There's not a lot of room. Yeah, he can try to wiggle there. What you're hoping to see, though, is Lorenzo Styles is the unblocked player. Now, he's going to come back. He's really kind of lurking over here on the edge. He's your nickel corner, but in this sense, he's like the third linebacker, because if you think about what we're doing from a single gap scheme here, that's what we're seeing from Ohio State. We've got a gap, and then Styles has this guy. But as we're seeing, the gaps change, the linebackers fall over. They're all coming this way. So Styles is already flowing that way. Now, what you'd want to see is right here, there's not a lot of room for Bo Jackson to go this way, so you want him to come in and clean this up. We saw a ton of great work like that from Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs last year, and instead, what do we get? We get a missed tackle, right? We'll show one more time. This is a true freshman on a fifth-year senior. not great. And again, Malik Hartford, he's running with the ones. He's got to make that tackle in the open field. So, one, it's interesting to see the scheme from the Ohio State continuing to see gap scheme. That's all we saw throughout the day. We'll show another one here in a second. But you want to see better execution from the tackling. You want to see better open field tackling. You want to see better angles. So some good, some bad here from Ohio State. We did see zone from Ohio State. It was in the form of an RPO. So it was an inside zone run here. We see really nice throw from Sayin on the out route. We saw all three quarterbacks execute this concept. We also saw a version of it with a slant attached. Now, what do we mean by that? That is, everybody's blocking down, right? You can see everybody's just blocking their zone, and CJ would have the chance to kind of fit right in there, right? Well, that's not exactly what we're seeing, right? This is a version of inside zone that's really more like duo, and we're going to show another version of duo here in a minute. They're not really climbing to the next level. Now, part of the reason they're not climbing to the next level is because if you get a guy up here, right, you get a guy at that next level, that can get flagged for illegal man downfield. So they're going to capitalize on these double teams. We're going to talk about them. But really what we're seeing here is that they are reading this defender, right? They're waiting to see, they think we're going to get as the corner dropping. We can see it's single high safety, right? So that signals to me, if I'm Julian Sayin, we can see he's going to drop in the middle field. That says it's some form of 3 deep. It's what they get. And so that says, all right, who is the guy that's going to fill this spot right here, right? Who's going to be the responsible for defending that? Now, in this case, it's this safety, right? And that safety is sitting there coming up to play the run. That's Caleb Downs. It's Jalen McClain. That would be Caleb Downs if this was the ones. But you can see him sitting here reading instead of getting out to the flat. That's his responsibility to get out to the flat. Because he sits here to play the run, instead, we see Sayin pull the ball. But what I love about Sayin here, watch his feet. He's got wide feet. And then, boom, he resets so quickly. And he's already in a great throwing motion. This was the thing that impressed me probably the most from Julian Sayin on Saturday. His footwork and his mechanics were so clean that allowed him to make such great throws. We can see it here. Again, Ohio State's going to need to find answers. They don't have the big body of Will Howard in the QB run game. They don't have the speed of a Justin Fields. So how are you going to manufacture a secondary threat when you have teams that are trying to stop the run? Quick little RPOs like this are a great way of doing that. Again, quick feet, reset, perfectly accurate throw right on the numbers. That's a good answer, something Ohio State fans should be excited about. All right, I think that everyone knows this was probably Sayin's best throw of the day. This deep over route, beautiful ball right on the numbers here. We can see it in the replays, right? We get this ball. Watch this thing. Look what this thing is going to hit him right in the helmet. Now, as we watch, I want to watch from the end zone view. We don't get a great version of it. Look how calm his feet are, right? He's in a great throwing position. He's got his weight evenly distributed. The ball's up high. His eyes are downfield. As he's working through his progression, his feet are following his eyes, right? As he is looking here, right? Eyes and feet in the same position, right? He moves on to his next one. Eyes, feet, they're parallel, right? That's exactly what you're looking for. Those are clean. He's able to sit there. Now, Logan George does a really nice job coming around the edge. We're going to talk about him in a second, a little bit later on, because I thought he played really well. And it probably helps that Sayin's wearing a black jersey. He knows he can't be hit. But again, you see him stand tall in the pocket, works through his progression. Now, I believe this was probably his third, because we're going to get deep over, and some version of like a... Right, we've got some version of like a clear out. I think this is supposed to be like what they call a spread concept, but a great jam on number 2 there turns this into kind of a broken play, right? Like this guy should be getting upfield, and instead he's running right into that. So we've got all this commotion over the middle, and what that leaves, though, is this open deep over. They're playing 2-man, which means that there's 2 deep safeties and man underneath. It's a great pass defense on third down, but still, quarterback just threading the needle. So again, Sayin, I thought, played a really nice game. We're going to show one more example of why I thought he really separated himself, but just a beautiful throw. All right, this was one of my favorite plays, one of my favorite throws from Sayin on Saturday. A lot of people probably forgot about it. Just a little pistol, play action, dump it off to the running back. Another great, move in the open field from Bo Jackson. But what this is, it's a simple 3-deep flood, right? We've got the number 1 to that side clearing out. This receiver is going to kind of weave through to create, a second level. And what it's supposed to happen is we're going to get this little shallow crossing route. It'll be 1, 2, 3, deep to short, right? Now, what ends up happening there is we get that release. We get that clean release. We're going to get number 2 coming across. But if you look at where number 3 is, he is getting held up inside here. He's not able to release, right? The tight end is actually, we've got 17 here who is just leading him across. There's nowhere for him to go. So what we're seeing instead is we've got guys carrying. We've got a lot of help over these 2 receivers. There's not much for Sayin to do, but he doesn't panic, even though, once again, here comes Logan George, who does a great job of fighting off the tight end and getting upfield or getting into the backfield to try to make a play. But as he arrives, you can see, once again, watch where are Julian Sayin's feet. They're following his eyes, right? You can see as his eyes change, his feet change. And you can see that all the way around. As he goes and makes this throw, he knows he's got to check down with the defender oncoming. His feet follow his eyes. He quickly resets. Let's watch it in real time. Quickly resets. The ball's out so fast. These are the little things that keep drives alive. They allow you to continue to move the chains, which set up for the big throw to Jeremiah Smith. They set up for the big play to Carnell Tate, what have you. These are types of throws that don't get shown on SportsCenter. They're not going to go in the 2-minute highlight package. But they're the types of things that keep a quarterback on the field. They keep his offense moving. We saw Will Howard get so much better at this as the season went along, as he got more comfortable. Now you've got a young guy in Julian Sayin doing the exact same thing at such a young age. So for me personally, this was a big reason why I think he's going to be the guy taking snaps under center against Texas in week 1. All right, this is the annual meme of, is this the year Ohio State throws to the tight ends? This is the early touchdown pass to Max Clare, who is wide open. Just absolutely as open as you can be. Now, I want to go back to this because what are we seeing here? We are seeing a bunch formation, right? We're going to have Carnell Tate come out. What this is a 4 verts set, right? We go back to the end zone or the original view. He's going to come out here. He's number 1. We're actually going to get Innis number 2, inside release for Claire number 3, and there's Jeremiah Smith number 4. There's your 4 verts. Why am I showing you that, right? Well, we go back to this view. What are we seeing here? We're seeing a switch release. Now, Sonny Styles is the pole runner, which means he's got this middle area because we're going to see in Tampa 2, these 2 safeties fall off. It's a hybrid between a cover 2 and a cover 3 because you almost have 3 deep players. What should happen is the outside corner is going to essentially zone up on Carnell Tate. You're going to see Lorenzo Styles is going to run here with Brandon Innis, but Sonny Styles turns his head this way instead of following Max Clare. That is not great, right? See, he looks at him. I think he thinks he's going to run some over route here. Folks, this is why I believe that the defense Ohio State ran on Saturday is not the defense that Matt Patricia has any intention of running against Texas. There were sloppy errors just in execution. It seemed like they didn't know their checks. They hadn't set up in any way, shape, or form. They were lost on plays like this all the time. Now, that might have been to give the quarterbacks confidence, but I really think that what this was a defense that was put out there to give Steve Sarkisian absolutely nothing to prepare for. Nobody knows what Matt Patricia's defense looks like yet, and something tells me it ain't this. Regardless, nice throw from Sayin. Good to see Claire get a touchdown, getting some fan love, but I don't think there's a whole lot we can take away from what this means defensively for Ohio State. All right, last piece we're going to show here. This was actually the following snap that Sonny Styles came back out after giving up that touchdown. We see him make a nice little play here, beat the guard, make a play in the backfield. Now, I'm showing this play for 2 reasons. One, because this is a great example of that duo concept, that it's a version of inside zone. Now, what do I mean by that? We've got double teams here and here. Watch what I mean by that. We've got double teams there. What you're not seeing, and you would typically see in an inside zone, is a climb, right? They're trying to get upfield. We're going to climb, trying to get to these linebackers. Instead, what we're seeing, the only person who's climbing is the tight end trying to get up to Caleb Downs, who's essentially playing the 3rd linebacker here from his boundary safety. Instead, what's supposed to happen is CJ Donaldson's supposed to read and cut back, right? That's why I say it's a version of zone, because he does have options, but he's basically trying to read that middle linebacker. Now, Sonny Styles has probably seen this in practice a million times, and he knows exactly what's going to happen. He knows I'm a better athlete than Luke Montgomery. Sorry, Luke. It's just the truth. And Sonny's so familiar. This is what happens at the end of spring ball. He just beats him, makes a play. Now, The other reason I wanted to show this is, one, you can see a little bit of what this duo run package looks like. Again, 2 double teams on the defensive tackles, not climbing, but waiting for, if he's going to come down fast, ideally Luke's going to get eyes on him and cut him off at the line of scrimmage versus climbing, right? He's almost moving laterally. But instead, Sonny's just a good enough athlete to beat that. But the more important thing, and the reason I say this isn't what we're going to expect, is we see the defensive ends are boxing, right? We're playing one gap scheme where the defensive ends are boxing. Like I said, there's the B gap from that backer, A gap from the tackle and the middle linebacker, B gap, B gap. Like, this guy is theoretically, the corner's got one of these gaps, right? Maybe the end's going to go in between the tight ends. The point being, this is the defense that we saw Ohio State playing pre-Oregon. This was the old school defense where they're trying to pin, almost box in the run game. So the running back, he's got to stay in between here. He's got to go somewhere in the middle. What ended up happening after that, which led to this defense to be so successful, as we showed many times, is they were pinching, right? You'd see these ends coming in the middle, and then you would see Downs with the C gap. You'd see Arvell Reese out there. You'd see Sonny Styles playing outside gaps, right? They're clogging up the middle to try to get the ball carrier to have to go horizontally. Instead, what they're running defensively now is allowing and trying to force the ball carrier to run in between the tackles and not get outside. That's such a difference, and by all accounts, different from what Ohio State was even doing in practice over the spring, which is why, again, I believe that what we saw on Saturday, schematically, there's not much to take away defensively, although what we saw with the run game, there are a few things that we should keep in mind. Okay, I want you to look at the guy circled on the left side. That is Logan George. I've already said his name a couple times. No, I've continued to maintain that what we saw from the defense schematically, not a lot to take away from. Didn't love some of the tackling as I showed early on. But this was one of the few bright spots that I really took away from the game, thinking that's interesting, that caught my eye. Logan George as a pass rusher was by far the most disruptive player on the edge for Ohio State. This is an example where he creates havoc, beats Ian Moore around the edge with a really nice move and forces. Now, this is, again, Julian Sayin has a black jersey and knows he's not getting hit, folks. In a real game, he is getting a helmet right to the back. So, this is the difference between truly live football and scrimmages. But I just love what we saw here from Logan George. This is a really nice technique. So we get a long arm here. He's going to initiate contact. Look at his left hand again, right? Look at his left hand. He's initiating the contact, and his whole goal is he wants to force Ian Moore he's going to punch this way while going that way, right? He wants to get that tackle off balance. Now, Moore, of course, these guys have been playing together again. They faced off in practice. God only knows how many times over the last month. So he does a good job. He knows this move. He recognizes it. He's got that big paw out there, right? He's initiating content. He's saying, you're not going to get by me that easy. But then what happens is Logan George, watch his right arm. He's going to grab it, push it, and rip underneath it with his left, okay? Watch it again. This is beautiful. This is Larry Johnson. For as much as I think he was disparaged last year, that's a guy who has paid attention to Larry Johnson's class. Ian Moore, good try, but man, you're done at this point. Like, you just got beat. Again, he rips under, uses that left arm to push off, keep him from engaging, and now it's on to tag the quarterback. This should have been ruled a sack. You can see the tag there. Again, this is a guy Ohio State needs to get productivity from the pass rush. We know the secondary is going to be good. We know the back seven is going to create plays. What they are worried about is getting pressure with 4. That was so valuable during that playoff run. Logan George is a guy, even if he's only a situational pass rusher, I think he's going to be on the field. My guess is he will be one of the starters against the Longhorns week 1. Just one of the guys that caught my eye on this defensive side of the ball for Ohio State.